Well, we are nearly halfway through the year, and if your budget, savings, or retirement goals have gotten a little off track, now is a good time for you to check in. On this Money Saving Monday, we're talking about simple ways to reset your finances before the summer spending does pick up. So joining us this morning is Anthony Cosentino with Wild Wealth Management Group. So thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So I want to talk about why mid-year is maybe a smart time for a financial reset.
Yeah. I think mid-year is important, right? We've just made it through, we've had January's where we have our New Year's resolutions and, really get all these ideas of what we want to do this year. We've had enough months into the year now where you can kind of reset and think, how have I been doing? Have I been on track? Have I done really well or not so much, right? These first few months of the year. I think more importantly too is we're going into summertime and utility bills are higher. We've got travel. So it's a good time to just reset. How have we done up to now? And really looking forward, how are we, set up for the summertime?
Yeah, okay, so maybe we didn't do so well in the first 5-6 months of the year, and we want to fix things. What's that first number we should be looking at?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just income and expenses. Looking at your cash flow, really looking at what are you bringing in every month, what are you spending every month, and I think that's the simplest thing to just look at. Do I have enough money at the end of every month? Do I have more, than I'm spending? Do I have less? And really looking at what are the causes that are eating up that cash flow and just really taking a look at that.
Yeah, well, it's all the unnecessary expenses, right? But you got to really lay it out and kind of see where those unnecessary expenses are. Okay, so then what do you feel like is the biggest money mistake we're making after the beginning of the year?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just not reviewing it. We all go into the new year with these grand ideas of, hey, I'm going to set this New Year's resolution. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to do all these different things.
Yeah.
And then we just don't revisit it. So, summertime is just a good chance to really take a step back and say, where am I at? Am I on track? Am I not?
Yeah.
What do I need to be doing? It's really just awareness. I think a lot of times when we do this and not just finances, right? It's just, am I staying on track with the goals that I set? And, am I watching those as I move forward?
Yeah. I always say too, it's hard when you have a lofty goal. Right. It's doable, but it might not happen immediately. And if you stumble, you shouldn't necessarily give up. And we were just talking about that. Right. Some goals, you might not see the fruits of your labor for maybe a whole year, right, maybe longer. And so many people want that instant satisfaction. So maybe setting shorter goals.
Yeah. And I think it's, buying a house, retirement. These are things that are so far out, maybe it's a few years, maybe it's 30 years. And, not getting down on yourself that you might not have hit a goal overnight. Practice over time. It takes time and, little wins along the way, just making sure that you are, kind of tracking where should I be?
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's just hard to see that long-term, that finish line, right? That may be a ways out.
Absolutely. I feel like, my husband is like, he doesn't matter. It could be 30 years out and he'll still continue the race. Meantime, I need the crumbs to lead me down the way because it just drives me nuts. But you know what? That's something that I can work on and something that everybody out there just set up for ourselves so we have a better financial future. Right. And speaking of, if you are someone who's carrying around debt, which by the way, millions of people are, debt is only getting higher right now. What is the first thing we should prioritize now that we have that debt?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing first is when you're looking at the debt itself, what's the most high interest debt, right? It's the credit cards. Those can be 19, 25% interest rates. Looking at those first, because that's really where you're going to make the most meaningful impact of getting rid of those interest charges, right? Second is just looking at what are the expenses that you can cut. If you feel like you're bogged down in different ways, is it subscriptions? Is it eating out? What are the different things that we can start to really pull back on?
Yeah.
And little changes that you can make here and there make a big difference. It's not just looking at, well, I need to pay off my car, right? Maybe it's going out to eat one less time a month or whatever that may be, just to give you some progress.
Yeah, bringing your lunch to work, maybe a couple times a week instead of the whole week if it's hard for you to kind of scale back. The other thing I feel like it's important to talk about, especially when you're talking about lunch or going to dinners, they're kind of a social, event. So it's hard for you to sometimes kind of pull yourself out of that because you feel like you're out of the loop. But it's important, I think, to have that support around you when you're trying to reach those goals.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think there's anything wrong with making it aware in your circle, your family, your friends. I think it's okay to be open about, hey, I'm trying to save or I'm trying to pull back. And, if you're being honest about kind of what you're planning, if you're going out to eat as much or if you're not and trying to, kind of change your environment, I think that's important.
Yeah, I mean, and if you have some good friends around you, good people, then they'll be supportive too.
Absolutely.
It'll be hard that you'll miss that one lunch, but hey, it's okay.
There's always another one.
Yeah, there's always another one. It's so true. Thank you so much for being here. I feel like such good tips, and there are so many more here. So where can we go to find more information?
Yeah, you can find us at wildwealthmanagementgroup.com. So, feel free to email us, call us. We'd be happy to help and, talk through anything.
Yeah, ask for Anthony Cosentino. Tell him 12 News sent you.
Yeah,
Anthony,
absolutely.
thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Really great conversation.